Daniel, I think Ryan is going to propose. Emily Carter's voice was quieter than Daniel Hayes had ever heard it, almost lost beneath the soft hum of the lights in her corner office 40 floors above downtown Seattle. Daniel stood across from her desk with one hand resting against the back of a leather chair, his dark brown hair still damp from the rain outside, his expression calm in the way Emily had come to depend on. That's what you wanted, he said. I know. Ryan's a good man. I know that too. 3 simple answers, yet none of them touched the question sitting between them. Beyond the glass, rain streaked the city lights into ribbons of silver and gold, and somewhere far below, traffic whispered along wet pavement. Emily looked down at the small velvet box Ryan had accidentally revealed when reaching for his car keys earlier that evening, then slowly raised her eyes. Then why does it feel like I'm choosing the wrong man? Daniel said nothing. Sometimes dignity lives in the words a person refuses to say, and Daniel had spent years learning how to carry feelings without making them someone else's burden. He was 32, a single father, an operations manager with an ordinary salary and an 8-year-old daughter waiting at home. Emily was 28, the founder and CEO whose name appeared on the building, the contracts, and half the business magazines in the lobby downstairs. On paper, there was no reason for that silence to hurt. But it did. 3 months earlier, neither of them could have imagined this moment. Back then, Emily Carter believed love could be approached like any difficult business problem. Identify the objective, remove bad options, make the smartest choice. She had built a company from 6 employees in a rented office to hundreds of people across the country. She understood forecasts, negotiations, risk. People called her brilliant because she could walk into a room full of uncertainty and leave with a plan. Love was the one thing that refused to follow one. One Tuesday evening, long after most employees had gone home, Emily had summoned Daniel to her office. He arrived carrying a folder, assuming there was another operational problem waiting for him. Instead, Emily slid a sheet of paper across the desk. I need your help. Daniel glanced down. There were names, occupations, short biographies, even carefully written notes. With what? Finding a husband. Daniel looked at her, then at the paper, then back at her. I'm sorry. For the first time that day, Emily almost smiled. You heard me. I'm your operations manager. Exactly. I optimize shipping schedules, not husbands. Her smile finally appeared, brief but genuine. Then her expression softened. You're also the only person in this company who tells me the truth when everyone else tells me what they think I want to hear. That stopped him. The office grew quiet. Emily folded her hands on the desk, no longer looking like a CO, giving an assignment, but like a young woman admitting she did not know the answer. Help me find the right man, Daniel. He should have refused. Instead, after a long moment, he pulled out the chair and sat down. All right, he said, but we're throwing away your checklist. Emily frowned. Why? Daniel looked at the names again. Because a resume can tell you what a man has accomplished. It can't tell you who he is. Emily studied him, curious now. Neither of them understood it yet, but the search had already begun with the wrong list and the right man sitting directly across from her. By 5:30 the next afternoon, Daniel Hayes was already shutting down his computer. Leaving early again? A senior vice president asked as he passed Daniel's desk. Leaving on time, Daniel replied. Big difference. The man glanced at the unfinished conference room meeting behind them. Some people stay late when they want to move up. Daniel slipped his laptop into his bag. My daughter is waiting. He said it without irritation, apology, or explanation. 8 years of fatherhood had taught him something the corporate world sometimes forgot. Not everything important came with a deadline on a calendar. 20 minutes later, Daniel's aging dark blue pickup rolled into the elementary school pickup lane beneath a gray Seattle sky. Mia Hayes was waiting under the covered entrance with a purple backpack almost large enough to hide her. The moment she spotted his truck, her face brightened. Daniel felt the weight of the office disappear. You are 3 minutes late, Mia announced as she climbed inside. Traffic. Excuse. Accurate excuse. Still an excuse. Daniel smiled and handed her the apple slices he had packed that morning. At home, their small 2-bedroom house looked nothing like Emily Carter's world of glass offices and private conference rooms. A soccer ball rested beside the porch steps. Mia's drawings covered half the refrigerator. A stack of bills sat beneath a ceramic bowl filled with loose change, keys, and 2 crayons nobody remembered putting there. Daniel changed out of his dress shirt, rolled up the sleeves of an old gray Henley, and started dinner while Mia worked through multiplication problems at the kitchen table. 7 times 8? He asked. 56. 9 times 6? 54. How many vegetables are you eating tonight? Mia narrowed her eyes. That was not multiplication. Still waiting for an answer. Their laughter filled the kitchen as onions softened in a skillet and rain tapped gently against the windows. There was no luxury in that room, but there was something Daniel valued more: peace. After dinner, he checked Mia's homework, repaired the loose wheel on her science project, and listened while she explained a disagreement between 2 girls in her class with the seriousness of a United Nations negotiation. Only after Mia went upstairs to brush her teeth did Daniel notice the message on his phone. Emily, I revised the list. Daniel stared at it for a moment before replying. That was fast. 3 dots appeared immediately. I am efficient. Daniel smiled despite himself. That is what worries me. Across the city, Emily sat alone in her penthouse with the revised list open on her tablet. She had expected Daniel to treat her request like an assignment. Instead, he had challenged the premise before they had even started. No one did that to her anymore. Investors praised her instincts. Employees watched her expressions before offering opinions. Men on dates seemed more interested in impressing Emily Carter, Chief Executive Officer, than discovering who Emily was when nobody needed anything from her. Daniel was different. He disagreed without disrespect. He listened without performing. Most strangely, he never seemed afraid of losing her approval. Her phone buzzed again. First question, Daniel had written. Why do you actually want to get married? Emily's fingers stopped above the screen. She had prepared qualifications for the man she wanted. Education, stability, ambition, character. She had not prepared an answer for why she wanted him. 10 miles away, Daniel tucked Mia into bed, switched on the hallway light she still insisted remain on, and quietly closed her door halfway. At the office, people saw an employee who left at 5:30. Mia saw the man who always came home. And Emily was about to discover that the difference between those 2 things mattered far more than any resume. Emily did not answer Daniel's question until the next morning. At 8:15, she appeared beside his desk holding 2 cups of coffee. Conference room. 5 minutes. Daniel looked at the coffee. Is that a bribe? It is caffeine. That was not my question. A faint smile crossed her face before she walked away. Inside the conference room, morning rain traced thin silver lines across the windows, while downtown Seattle disappeared beneath low clouds. Emily placed her tablet on the table, but did not open it. You asked why I want to get married. Daniel waited. I am 28. My mother thinks I work too much. My board thinks I have no life. Every man I meet either competes with me or agrees with everything I say. She paused. And I am tired of going home to a place that feels like a hotel. Daniel's expression softened, but he did not rescue her from the honesty of the moment. Then you are not looking for a husband. Emily frowned. Excuse me. You are looking for a home. The words landed harder than either expected. For several seconds, only the ventilation system filled the silence. Emily looked away first. Daniel finally opened her list. All right. 3 questions. He turned the tablet toward her. How does he treat people who cannot help him? How does he handle being told no? Who does he become when nobody is impressed? Emily stared at him. That is your entire system? Pretty much. No income requirement. You already have money. Education. A diploma cannot teach character. Social standing. Daniel took a sip of coffee. You are trying to find someone to share breakfast with, not acquire another company. She laughed, unexpectedly and fully, and Daniel realized he had never heard that sound inside the office. Then Emily's phone lit up. Her expression changed. What? Daniel asked. She hesitated before turning the screen toward him. The message came from Margaret Carter, Emily's mother. Dinner Sunday. I found someone you should meet. Emily sighed. This happens every month. Maybe he is wonderful. My mother once introduced me to a man who brought his financial advisor on our second date. Daniel nearly smiled. Efficient. Emily gave him a look. Then another message arrived, containing a name. Ryan Caldwell. Daniel's hand stopped around his coffee cup. It lasted less than a second, but Emily noticed. You know him? I know of him. From where? Daniel leaned back. Caldwell Capital tried to recruit me 2 years ago. Emily blinked. That was not the answer she expected. Caldwell Capital did not recruit ordinary operations managers. It recruited executives. For what position? Daniel closed the tablet. Does it matter? It does now. After a moment, he answered. Director of Operations. Emily stared at him. That would have doubled your salary. More than doubled. And you turned it down? Mia was 6. The job required almost constant travel. Daniel said it as though the decision needed no defense. She had already lost enough time with one parent. I was not giving her less of the other. Emily became very still. Suddenly, the employee who left at 5:30 looked different. He had not failed to climb higher. He had stepped away from the ladder on purpose. That was the first surprise. The second came when Daniel pushed Ryan's name back toward her. Go to dinner. You are recommending the man whose company tried to hire you? I am recommending that you meet him before judging him. Emily studied Daniel's face. You really want me to find someone, do you not? His answer came quietly. You asked me to help. She nodded, but something about his voice stayed with her. As Daniel stood to leave, a worn leather keychain slipped from his pocket onto the table. Emily picked it up before he noticed. Embossed into the leather were 4 faded words. Choose the life that stays. Mia made it. Daniel said, taking it gently. For Father's Day? Emily asked. He looked at the little strip of leather for a moment. No, her mother did. Then he walked out, leaving Emily alone with Ryan Caldwell's name on the screen and a sentence she would not understand until much later. The first man on Emily's list lasted exactly 11 minutes before Daniel knew the answer. His name was Charles Mercer, a successful real estate developer with a polished smile, an expensive watch, and the remarkable ability to turn every conversation back toward himself. Emily met him Thursday evening at a quiet restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay. Daniel was not there, of course. His role was simple. Listen afterward, ask questions, and tell her what everyone else was too polite to say. At 8:47, his phone buzzed while he was helping Mia assemble a model of the solar system at their kitchen table. He owns 3 houses, Emily wrote. Daniel replied. How many questions did he ask about you? A long pause followed. 2. In 2 hours? One was whether I preferred Aspen or Maui. Daniel smiled. Generous of him. Mia looked up from Saturn. Who are you texting? My boss. At night. Apparently love has terrible office hours. The second candidate was a cardiologist named Andrew Pierce. Intelligent, respected, composed. Emily called Daniel afterward from her car. He was almost perfect. Almost as doing some work in that sentence. The waiter brought sparkling water instead of still water. Andrew spent 5 minutes explaining why mistakes were evidence of poor management. Daniel was quiet. What? Emily asked. Nothing. Daniel, you already know. She sighed. How someone treats people who cannot help him. Exactly. The third man, Thomas Reed, was different. Charming without being loud. Successful without announcing it. He made Emily laugh. For nearly a week, Daniel wondered if his strange assignment might end sooner than expected. Then Emily refused Thomas's request to introduce him to one of her largest investors. Thomas canceled their next dinner the following morning. So, Emily said later, standing beside Daniel in the office break room. 3 impressive men. Daniel poured coffee into a paper cup. 3 useful lessons. You always talk like somebody's grandfather? Only before lunch. She smiled, but the smile faded as she watched him stir sugar into his coffee. Can I ask you something? You usually do. If you know so much about good men, why are you still single? Daniel's hand stopped. The refrigerator hummed behind them. Somewhere beyond the door, phones rang and keyboards clicked, but inside that small room, the question seemed to absorb every other sound. Emily immediately regretted it. I am sorry. That was personal. It was. Daniel placed the spoon beside the sink. But fair. He looked toward the window. Mia's mother was named Rachel. Emily remembered the leather keychain. She died. Daniel nodded once. For years ago. There was no performance in his grief, no invitation for pity. Just truth carried quietly because it had been carried for a long time. After that, Mia needed stability. I needed to learn how to be enough for both of us. Emily lowered her voice. And you never wanted another chance? Daniel looked at her then. Wanting something and being ready for it are different things. The answer stayed with Emily through the afternoon. That evening, rain came down harder than forecast, flooding several streets and slowing traffic across the city. At 6:10, Daniel received a call from Mia's school. Her after-school program was closing early. He grabbed his coat. Emily intercepted him near the elevators. We still have the vendor issue. I know. I can handle it from home. I will come with you. Daniel stared at her. To my house. We need to finish this tonight. 25 minutes later, Emily Carter, who could command a room of executives without raising her voice, stood awkwardly beneath the covered entrance of an elementary school while Mia ran straight past her and into Daniel's arms. Daddy! Daniel caught his daughter and lifted her just enough to make her laugh. Emily froze. She had seen Daniel solve million-dollar problems without losing his composure. She had seen him challenge her decisions with quiet respect, but she had never seen his face become this soft. Mia noticed Emily watching. Who is she? Daniel set her down. This is Emily, my boss. Mia studied the blonde woman for 3 serious seconds. The husband lady? Daniel closed his eyes. Emily blinked. The what? Mia grinned. The lady dad is helping find a husband. For once, Emily Carter had absolutely nothing to say. And Daniel, despite every effort to stop himself, laughed. Emily was still smiling when Daniel pulled his truck into the driveway 20 minutes later, although she would have denied it if he had asked. The husband lady, she repeated as Mia unbuckled her seatbelt. Daniel rubbed a hand across his face. She is 8. Confidentiality is still a developing skill. I like her already, Emily said. Mia leaned forward between the seats. I like you too. Daniel glanced at both of them. This alliance is becoming concerning. Inside, Emily stepped into a world that felt almost impossibly different from her own. The house was small, warm, and imperfect. A pair of sneakers rested crooked beside the door. Family photographs covered one wall. A faded drawing of 3 stick figures was still attached to the refrigerator, one of them labeled Mom in a child's uneven handwriting. Daniel noticed Emily looking at it, but he said nothing. He simply hung his coat beside Mia's and moved toward the kitchen. We still have a vendor crisis, he reminded her. And I promised somebody dinner. Macaroni and cheese? Mia asked hopefully. Spaghetti. That was my second choice. Emily set her laptop on the kitchen table. I can help. Daniel looked skeptical. With the vendor problem? Dinner. Mia gasped dramatically. Do chief executive officers cook? Emily removed her jacket. We are about to find out. 40 minutes later, the vendor issue was resolved. The spaghetti was simmering, and Emily had managed to burn one side of the garlic bread. Mia stared at the blackened edges with scientific curiosity. Is it supposed to look like that? Absolutely, Emily said. Daniel folded his arms. Interesting strategy. It is called caramelization. That is not what that is called. Mia laughed so hard she nearly dropped her fork. The sound filled the kitchen, bright and effortless, and something inside Emily loosened. Nobody here cared about quarterly earnings. Nobody watched her face before deciding whether to laugh. Daniel teased her when the bread burned. Mia interrupted her twice. The world did not collapse. After dinner, Mia brought out her solar system project and insisted Emily help attach Jupiter. Daniel washed dishes while listening to the two of them debate whether Saturn was prettier. For a moment, he stopped with his hands beneath the warm water. Emily was sitting where Rachel once used to sit, laughing beneath the same yellow kitchen light, and the familiarity of the picture caught him somewhere he had carefully kept closed. He lowered his eyes and returned to the dishes. Later, when Mia went upstairs to prepare for bed, Emily gathered her laptop. Thank you, she said. For spaghetti? For letting me see this. Daniel glanced around the modest kitchen. There is not much to see. Emily shook her head. I think there is. Mia suddenly appeared at the stairs holding something behind her back. Wait. She hurried toward Emily and handed her a small paper card decorated with purple stars. For me? Emily asked. You helped with Jupiter. Emily turned it over. Mia had written 4 words in careful pencil. You can come back. Daniel became still. Emily looked at him, then at Mia. I would like that, she said softly. On the drive home, the rain had stopped. Seattle shimmered beneath wet streetlights, and Emily's penthouse windows reflected a city that usually made her feel successful. That night, it only looked enormous. She placed her purse on the marble counter. No shoes by the door. No homework on the table. No burned garlic bread. No laughter coming from upstairs. Her phone lit up with a message from her mother. Sunday dinner confirmed. Ryan Caldwell will be there. Emily looked at the message, then at Mia's little card resting beside her keys. For the first time, The question was no longer whether Ryan might fit her list. It was why a simple kitchen 10 miles away had felt more like home than everything she had spent years building. Ryan Caldwell arrived at Margaret Carter's home on Sunday at exactly 6 o'clock, carrying flowers for Emily's mother and nothing for Emily. Strangely, she liked that. "You must be Ryan. And you must be the daughter I have been warned not to impress too hard." "Who warned you?" "Your mother." Margaret smiled from the doorway. "I said no such thing." Ryan looked at Emily. "She absolutely did." Emily laughed before she could stop herself. That was the first surprise. The second was that Ryan barely mentioned Caldwell Capital during dinner. He asked Margaret about the photographs lining the hallway. He listened when Emily talked about the difficult first year of her company. When a young server from the catering company spilled water beside his plate and apologized repeatedly, Ryan simply moved his chair back and said, "You are fine. Nobody lost a kidney. We survived." Emily heard Daniel's first question in her mind. How does he treat people who cannot help him? Ryan passed. After dinner, Margaret suggested dessert, but Ryan declined politely because he had promised to call his younger brother in Chicago. No performance. No strategic delay. No attempt to stretch the evening. At the front door, he looked at Emily. "I had a good time." "So did I. Would you like to do this again?" Emily hesitated only because she realized she was searching for a reason not to. She found none. Yes. On Monday morning, Daniel was reviewing shipping reports when Emily placed a coffee beside his keyboard. He passed. Daniel looked up. All 3 questions. So far. That sounds promising. Emily waited for something else. Surprise. Concern. Maybe even disappointment. Daniel only nodded and returned to the report. "That is it?" she asked. "What were you expecting?" "I do not know." Analysis. "You liked him?" "Yes." "He respected you?" "Yes." "He treated everyone well?" "Yes." Daniel leaned back. "Then go on another date." His calm answer should have reassured her. Instead, it irritated her in a way she could not explain. Over the next 3 weeks, Ryan kept passing tests nobody knew Daniel had created. He remembered the name of Emily's assistant. He accepted disagreement without turning cold. He never asked Emily for access to investors. When she canceled dinner because of a product launch, he sent soup to the office and wrote, "Work first, dinner later." Even Daniel had to admit it. He is a good man, Emily. They were standing near the elevators late on a Thursday afternoon when he said it. Emily studied his face. "You sound disappointed." "I sound honest." "Those are not always different." Daniel's eyes met hers for a second too long. Then the elevator doors opened. "Good night, Emily." That weekend, coincidence delivered the final test. Emily and Ryan were walking through a neighborhood farmer's market when Mia's voice rose above the crowd. "Emily." Daniel stood 20 feet away beside a fruit stand, carrying 2 grocery bags. Mia ran over, delighted, and immediately began telling Emily about her upcoming school science presentation. Ryan introduced himself without hesitation. He crouched slightly, so he was closer to Mia's height, and asked about Jupiter because Emily had apparently mentioned the project. Mia talked for 5 straight minutes. Ryan listened for all 5. Daniel watched quietly. When Mia finished, Ryan smiled. "Sounds like you know more about space than I do." "I do," Mia said confidently. Daniel nearly laughed. Before they separated, Ryan offered to carry one of Daniel's grocery bags to the parking lot. Daniel declined, but the gesture mattered. Later that evening, Emily called Daniel. Well, what? You saw him." Daniel was silent for a moment. "I did." And the quiet stretched between them. Daniel looked across his kitchen at Mia coloring beneath the warm yellow light. "I think you should keep seeing him." Emily closed her eyes. She had won. She had finally found a man who satisfied every standard Daniel believed mattered. Yet hearing Daniel approve felt strangely like losing something. Across town, Daniel ended the call and reached for his keys. The worn leather keychain turned between his fingers. "Choose the life that stays." For the first time in 4 years, those words did not feel like permission to remain where he was. They felt like a question. 3 days later, Daniel received an email that changed the shape of everything he had been trying not to feel. The offer came from Northstar Logistics in Portland, Director of Operations. A salary nearly 40% higher than his current pay. Flexible Fridays. Limited travel. Relocation assistance. Most importantly, Daniel's parents lived less than 30 minutes outside the city. He read the email twice before closing his laptop. "You look weird." Mia said from across the kitchen table. Thank you. Not bad weird. Thinking weird. Daniel smiled faintly. I got offered a new job. Mia stopped coloring. Somewhere else. Portland. Her eyes widened. Near Grandma and Grandpa. Very near. Would you still pick me up from school? Daniel looked at her. That question settled what the salary could not. Yes. Mia smiled. Then maybe you should do it. Children sometimes reach truth without taking the long road adults build around it. Daniel accepted the offer the following morning. He informed Human Resources first, then his department director, following company procedure. He told himself Emily would hear from him before the paperwork reached her desk. He was wrong. At 4:12 that afternoon, Emily walked into his office holding a printed resignation notice. She closed the door gently behind her. You are leaving? Daniel looked up. I was going to tell you. When? Today. Human Resources told me first. That was procedure. I am not asking about procedure. Her voice never rose, but something beneath it had cracked. Daniel stood. It is a good opportunity. I could have matched the salary. This is not about salary. Then what is it about? Mia? My parents. Time. Emily folded the paper once, carefully. You have time here. Daniel looked at her with quiet patience. Do I? The question stopped her. Outside his office, the normal rhythm continued. Phones rang. A printer hummed. Someone laughed near the elevators. Inside, two people stood only a few feet apart and suddenly seemed separated by miles. Why did you not tell me? Emily asked again, softer now. Daniel exhaled. Because you are my chief executive officer. Her eyes changed. Is that all I am? Silence. Daniel could have lied. It would have been easier. He could have said yes and protected both of them with one clean word. Instead, his gaze dropped briefly to the resignation notice in her hand. That is the problem. Emily barely breathed. Daniel continued before courage could become confession. You asked me to help you find someone good. You found him. Ryan respects you. He listens to you. He does not need your title, and he does not seem threatened by it. We are talking about you leaving. I know. Then stop talking about Ryan. Daniel looked at her. For one dangerous second, every careful boundary disappeared. Emily saw the answer he had never given her. Then his phone vibrated on the desk. A photograph from Mia appeared on the screen, the two of them at the farmer's market, laughing beside a mountain of apples. Attached beneath it was a message. Grandma says Portland has better rain. Daniel smiled despite himself. Emily noticed. When? She asked. 2 weeks. She nodded slowly. Congratulations. Emily, you made the right decision. Her voice was steady again, almost professional. For Mia, she turned toward the door. Daniel reached into his pocket, and the worn leather keychain brushed against his fingers. Choose the life that stays. Suddenly he understood what Rachel had meant years ago. Staying had never meant remaining in one city, one house, or one job. It meant choosing the people and values that remained when everything else changed. Emily. She stopped without turning. Daniel wanted to tell her that the dinners, the coffee, the burned garlic bread, and the way she had listened to Mia talk about Jupiter had awakened something he thought grief had permanently quieted. Instead, dignity held him still. Ryan is lucky, he said. Emily closed her eyes. Goodbye, Daniel. The door clicked shut behind her. That evening, Ryan met Emily for dinner at a quiet restaurant near Lake Union. He spoke warmly about his day, but halfway through the meal, he set down his fork. You have checked your phone 6 times. Emily looked at the dark screen beside her plate. I am sorry. Do not be. Ryan studied her gently. Is something wrong? Emily almost said no. Then she remembered Daniel's first rule. Character begins where performance ends. Someone important to me is leaving. Ryan nodded, but his eyes rested on her face a moment longer than before. Daniel. Emily looked up sharply. Ryan did not smile. He simply knew. And for the first time, Emily wondered whether the man helping her find the truth had been hiding one of his own. Ryan did not ask the question again. He simply waited, giving Emily the kind of silence Daniel had once told her revealed more about a person than any polished answer. Yes, she finally said. Daniel. Ryan nodded. I thought so. Emily looked across the candlelit table, embarrassed by how easily he had seen through her. I am sorry. For what? For being here while thinking about someone else. Ryan leaned back, thoughtful rather than offended. Then let me ask you something. Emily waited. When something good happens, who is the first person you want to tell? She opened her mouth, but no answer came. When you are afraid? Ryan continued. Emily looked down. When you have had the worst day of your life and you do not want advice, money, connections, or solutions, whose kitchen do you want to sit in? The restaurant seemed to grow quieter around her. A glass touched a table somewhere behind them. Silverware clicked softly against porcelain. Emily saw a yellow kitchen light, a crooked solar system, burned garlic bread, and Mia laughing until she could barely breathe. She saw Daniel washing dishes while pretending not to listen. She saw a modest house that had somehow given her more peace in one evening than her penthouse had given her in 3 years. Daniel, she whispered. Ryan gave a small, understanding smile. There it is. Emily shook her head. But you are everything I said I wanted. That might be the problem. What do you mean? You were looking for someone who made sense on paper. Ryan paused. He makes sense when the paper is gone. The truth arrived without drama. No grand revelation. No perfect speech. Just a quiet certainty that made every conversation of the past 3 months rearrange itself in her memory. Daniel had never tried to impress her. He had challenged her. He had protected time with his daughter when other people called it a lack of ambition. He had shown kindness without calculating its return. And when helping Emily find another man began costing him something, he had still told her the truth. Ryan reached for his coat. Go talk to him. Emily looked up. You are remarkably calm about this. I would rather lose honestly than win because someone was afraid to admit the truth. She almost laughed through the emotion tightening her throat. Daniel would have liked that answer. 20 minutes later, Emily stepped from a cab outside the office tower. Rain had returned, soft and cold, turning the sidewalk silver beneath the streetlights. She rode the elevator to the 40th floor, rehearsing sentences that all sounded wrong. The doors opened. Most of the office was dark. Daniel's desk was empty. Not simply empty for the evening. Empty. His photographs were gone. His coffee mug was gone. The small wooden pencil holder Mia had painted blue was gone. Only his employee badge remained beside a sealed envelope for human resources. Emily stood motionless. He finished early. The night receptionist said from across the floor. North Star needed him sooner. Today was his last day. Emily stared at the badge. 2 weeks had somehow become now. She reached for her phone and called him. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then she noticed something beneath the badge, a small folded piece of paper she recognized immediately. Mia's purple stars. You can come back. Emily turned it over. On the back, in Daniel's handwriting, were 5 words. Some doors should stay open. Her breath caught. Then another memory surfaced. One she had carried without understanding since the morning Daniel dropped his leather keychain in the conference room. Choose the life that stays. She had assumed Rachel's words were about grief, about Daniel refusing to leave the life he had built with Mia. Now she understood the hidden grace inside them. Staying was not about standing still. It was about recognizing what remained true when titles, offices, plans, and perfect lists disappeared. Emily looked at Daniel's empty chair and finally saw what had been in front of her from the beginning. She had asked him to identify the qualities of the right man, and every test he created had quietly described the life he was already living. Her phone vibrated. A message from Mia appeared. Emily, my school presentation is tomorrow at 4. Dad said you were probably busy, but I saved you a seat anyway. Emily pressed the little card against her palm. Daniel was leaving for Portland after the presentation. She had one chance left, not to stop him from going, but to finally tell him why she wanted to stay. At 4 o'clock the next afternoon, Emily Carter sat in the last row of a crowded elementary school auditorium with Mia's purple card folded carefully inside her purse. She had arrived without an assistant, without a driver, and without telling Daniel she was coming. On stage, a cardboard solar system hung beneath warm lights, its planets painted in colors that were not remotely accurate, but somehow perfect anyway. Mia stepped to the microphone. My project is about Jupiter, she began, then spotted Emily. Her nervous expression disappeared. She smiled. Daniel turned from his seat near the aisle and followed his daughter's gaze. When he saw Emily, he became completely still. Neither waved. Neither needed to. 20 minutes later, applause filled the room as Mia hurried off stage clutching a blue participation ribbon. You came, she said, wrapping both arms around Emily. You saved me a seat. Dad said chief executive officers are busy. Emily glanced at Daniel. Sometimes chief executive officers are wrong about what matters. Daniel understood the message. Outside, evening light broke through the clouds, painting the wet parking lot gold. Families drifted toward their cars while Mia ran ahead to show a teacher her ribbon. Daniel and Emily remained beneath the covered walkway. 2 suitcases were visible through the rear window of his truck. "Portland tonight?" Emily asked. "After dinner. I am not here to stop you." Daniel looked surprised. "You are not." "No. North Star is good for you. Your parents are close. Mia gets more family. And if I asked you to stay because of me, I would be asking you to become the kind of man you spent 3 months teaching me not to choose." Daniel lowered his eyes, almost smiling. "You learned something. More than I wanted to." A quiet breeze moved through the trees. Emily stepped closer, not enough to erase the distance, only enough to stop hiding behind it. "I asked you to help me find someone perfect. And Ryan. Ryan is a good man." Daniel nodded. "He is. But he asked me who I wanted to call when something good happened. Who I wanted when I was afraid. Whose kitchen felt like home." Daniel's expression changed. Emily continued. "Every answer was you." Silence settled between them, gentle this time. "Emily, I worked for you." "Worked." Past tense. "And tomorrow I live 3 hours away. Then we drive." "You hate driving." "Then I learn." Daniel laughed softly. "What happens Monday morning? You start your new job. I run my company. Mia starts planning another project that I will probably be recruited into. And us." Emily swallowed. "We do not rush. We do not pretend this is simple. We just give it a chance." Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out the worn leather keychain. "Choose the life that stays. There is something I never told you about this," he said. "Rachel made it during her last year." Emily waited. "I thought she was telling me to stay devoted to the life we had built." He turned the leather over. For years, the reverse side had been worn almost smooth. Then Daniel pressed his thumb against a tiny fold in the leather and opened a hidden inner flap Emily had never noticed. Inside, written in faded ink, were 7 words. "When love returns, do not send it away." Emily stared at him. Daniel's eyes were wet, but his smile carried no sadness now. "Mia found the hidden flap 2 weeks ago," he said. "The night I accepted the Portland job." Emily's breath caught. "So you knew?" "I knew Rachel had given me permission for a second chance." He paused. "I did not know whether you were mine." Before Emily could answer, Mia appeared beside them. "Dad, did you finally tell her?" Daniel blinked. Emily turned. "Tell me what?" Mia looked suddenly guilty. "About the card." Daniel stared at his daughter. "Mia." She pulled another purple card from her backpack. "I wrote you can come back, but Dad wrote the message on the back because I told him you looked happier at our house." Emily looked at Daniel. His quiet secret had never been that he felt nothing. It was that he had refused to make his feelings her burden while she was still searching for someone else. Emily smiled through tears. "So you were helping me find the right man while hoping I might notice you?" Daniel shook his head. "No, I was helping you find someone who deserved you. You really are terrible at recognizing yourself." Mia sighed. "Adults make everything complicated." Daniel laughed. Emily did too. Then Mia took her father's hand and offered her other hand to Emily. 3 people walked toward the truck beneath a clearing Seattle sky, with no promises of perfection and no certainty about distance, only honesty, grace, and the courage to begin again. And sometimes that is the quiet miracle people spend their whole lives searching for, not finding someone without flaws, but recognizing the person whose presence makes you want to stay.